Hi, I'm Dr. Ashley Fuller.
And I'm Dr. Meredith McClure.
And this is Labia Logic,
the podcast that's all vulva, no filter.
We're here to talk about all the stuff your doctor rushed through, the questions you've been too embarrassed to ask, and the sex ed that barely mentioned the vulva.
Because too many people are suffering in silence with painful sex, menopause misery, and vulvar issues no one talks about.
No shame, no stigma, just real talk, real answers, and the education you should have gotten in the first place. Welcome back to Labia Logic.
Welcome back.
It's January. It's me and Meredith here, like usual. And I guess I shouldn't say it's January. I should say, oh my God, it's January. Because we are starting out this year with a bang. We are going to talk about orgasms. Because,
literally a bang.
Yes, literally a bang. So we are going to talk about orgasms because you know what? We don't talk about enough women's sexual pleasure. I'm just going to put it right out there. We don't. So that is what we are going to talk about today. And this whole month is actually going to be about orgasm. So today we are going to talk about just kind of how orgasms work, myths about orgasms, and just the things we think you should know about it. And then we are going to have a guest on in 2 weeks that's going to be talking about how we can modulate or improve orgasms if people are having issues with orgasm, because it's definitely something that we both see in our clinical practices when people come with issues with their orgasm. And definitely none of this I learned in my OB-GYN residency. So I think it's a good thing to talk about because where do you go if you have an orgasm problem? Who do you talk to?
I mean, who do you talk to? Because we didn't learn this, but we have had to work hard to try to learn this and consistently trying to learn more and more, which is why we'll have our next guest on. I think people don't know where to go when they have trouble with orgasm. They aren't taught how to do it per se. It's often something that's kind of hush-hush. It's something done behind closed doors. They don't want to talk about it with friends. For sure don't want to talk about it with family, and even talking about it with your doctor. What doctor do you see? Who do you ask? It's a very personal thing.
Totally. And I think if you have a penis, it feels like it's more like acceptable to go to your urologist and talk about your erections and your orgasms. But like if you have a vulva and a clitoris, like I think people are afraid to bring it up because they feel like they'll be dismissed or their doctor won't know anything about it, which is valid. And so then they're like, what are you supposed to do about this? Other than like read on social media or get in a Reddit group or, it's like really hard.
Yeah. It's even a little easier to see if there's something wrong if you have a penis versus if you don't have a penis and you have a clitoris. Like it's kind of harder to see, is what's going on. And you and I examine vulvas every day, and we kind of look for things when people tell us they're having trouble with orgasm, but a lot of clinicians don't look, and they should.
So yeah, I mean, I think that part of the reason we wanted to talk about this is, because it's not talked about enough. And then there's a lot of cultural things or kind of societal things about how we prioritize women's pleasure. Mm-hmm. It feels like generally there's like expectations of women, or women feel this pressure to show that they're enjoying things or that they're able to achieve orgasm when maybe they're not. Like, so we're going to talk about faking orgasms and why we do that, whether you should do that. I think we know you shouldn't, but there's reasons people do that. Yeah. So I think we have a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Historically, even in medical literature, how female pleasure wasn't prioritized and it was almost shameful, whereas men it's embraced, and then that's even moved into cultural things and things we see on TV and movies, and male pleasure is clearly in the forefront and women's is definitely not.
I'm not someone who reads Teen Vogue or any of those things now, but like when I was growing up, those things were more about how you pleasure the male partner, not about your own pleasure. I think those things have changed somewhat. At least I hope they have, but I definitely think there's been this focus in our society about male pleasure.
Yeah.
And I think that shows up. You may have heard the term the orgasm gap. And this is like talking about who orgasms more in relationships. So in heterosexual encounters, it is much more likely that men will orgasm than women. And it kind of depends on the situation. So women in long-term relationships will tend to have a higher rate of orgasm because they're more comfortable with their partner, things like that probably. But in hookup relationships, there's a big discrepancy between the percentage of men who are able to orgasm versus the percentage of women, which is really, shocking. I think it shows a lot of things. It shows how It's not just physiology for us. There's some psychological components to it of safety and comfort and ability to communicate with our partners and things like that. And we're going to talk about that, but also just talks about the priorities that are put on women's pleasure.
The gap does narrow when it comes to same-sex female relationships. The orgasms go up for sure than with a penis and vagina.
Yes. So same-sex female relationships, two vulvas, way more likely to have orgasms. They know their anatomy better, those kinds of things. But at the same time, I think there's just more priority put on actual pleasure for the other partner. I think that our bodies are complicated. There is not a course on how to pleasure yourself or how to pleasure a female partner. So I do think that it's not as easy. I think, like you said, when you have a penis, you can see your sexual organ, you can see it get erect, you can see how it works. But with the female vulva and the clitoris, it's actually much more subtle. It can be more complicated. And because we don't teach this, it's sometimes harder to figure out. So as we talk about orgasm today, I will say, I do think the best way to learn what you like is to explore on your own. Knowing your body and knowing what you like is really important. And I feel like there's been this in some cultures, especially depending on religious status and things like that. Like there's like this, you're not supposed to masturbate, that kind of thing. I think that it's important to know your body, and that's how you learn your body, how you know what you like and what helps you achieve orgasm.
Agreed. It's very important and shouldn't be shameful in any way. This is normal, and we find pleasure and learn our bodies and know what we like and what we don't like. And there's a lot of exploration in that you will discover these things, and it's important. And in communicating that when you start to have partnered sex, that's a really hard thing, I feel, for people to do.
So faking orgasms, I always think about that. When Harry met Sally and she fakes that orgasm in the restaurant. And, if you're younger, you may not know this, like 1990s movie, maybe even 80s movie. Anyway, but she fakes this awesome orgasm in a diner. And, he's basically telling her, no one would believe you, like whatever. And she does it. And it's, pretty believable. I think this is something like, why do women do this? There's a lot of reasons that this happens. I mean, men can't really fake orgasms very easily, but women can. And, there's a lot of like the psychological components to this of why women do this.
And we see it a lot with our patients. It could be many reasons. It could be, I'm trying to get this over with.
Yes.
And maybe because it hurts or I'm not getting anything out of it. So if I do this, it's going to be over. So many women will put the focus on their partner's pleasure instead of their own.
Sure.
And it can make it difficult to achieve orgasm. And then it just sets in motion this whole process. And you're like, well, I just might as well just fake it. And then we could be done. And over time, I mean, you and I, we talked about libido. I mean, this affects everything. If you're not getting anything out of the sex you're having, you really aren't going to look forward to it. So guess what? Your libido and desire go down.
Yeah, it's hard to want to do something that isn't pleasurable. And I think sometimes it's kind of to protect partners' feelings. Like if their partner is trying really hard to please them, but it's just not happening, it's harder to say like, hey, this is not going to happen for me today. It's not you, it's me or whatever, than it is just be like, oh, I can just fake this orgasm and be done with it. But you're actually teaching your partner that something that they're doing is good for you, even though it clearly isn't good for you. So while sometimes it may seem like an easy end to whatever's happening, it also like is kind of reinforcing to your partner something that they're doing that it seems like it's pleasurable for you, but it isn't. The next time you have sex, they're going to do the same thing because last time it worked for you.
Yeah.
And it's still not going to work, probably. Some people have years of relationships like that. And then to kind of uncover that or come out of that is really hard because then you've kind of been lying to your partner about your pleasure for a long time. And that's like we get in some really complex relationship dynamics and components. It's complicated. We are complicated. That's what I always say. Women, we are just very complicated as people with vulvas.
And then we also know when you and I talk about a sexual experience with someone, I'm always like, are you glad you did it? Are you satisfied? An orgasm isn't the end-all be-all of you feeling satisfied with a sexual encounter. We know that people with vulvas don't have to have an orgasm in order to feel satisfaction, connection, those type of things. So is it the end-all be-all and every time you have to do that? And if you're not getting that every time, and now you kind of start faking it in order to say, oh, we did it, like just understand that it doesn't have to happen every time. And that's okay. If you are happy and satisfied and feel connected, amazing.
Absolutely. When you go into a sexual encounter, you're in a headspace, right? Like where you're in your headspace, I think really makes a difference. And being able to be present, be able to feel safe. I think that's really important too. If you're really anxious about a meeting you have later that day or the next day, it may be really hard for you to like relax enough to let it happen. And so I think there's no shame in saying, hey, like it's not going to happen for me today. I'm still enjoying this. Like, but I just know I'm not going to get there. So also, you can also say, like, I don't want to have sex because I know I'm not gonna be able to get there. But I agree with Meredith that, like, there are other things that we get out of sex that doesn't necessarily have to be physical pleasure. We also get like emotional intimacy and things like that. And there's a lot of different reasons that women can enjoy sex. Doesn't always have to be orgasm.
So many people in relationships, all of a sudden you cross that line and you have sex and an orgasm. It's like that is the ultimate line. You have to cross it every time. And you don't. And it's okay.
What we're going to talk about this month is understanding orgasm is important. And like I said, we haven't talked about it enough. And then understanding what can be done if orgasm isn't happening for you. Like if you're someone who never orgasms with a partner, only on your own, or if you're someone who's never been able to achieve orgasm or it's a rare thing for you, like what are the, being able to talk about what are the things that we can do to improve that for you? Because I do go back that like when we think about libido, which we know is, almost every person I sit in my office and talk to is an issue. Like one of the things that we have to have is it has to be pleasurable or you're not going to want to do it. An orgasm is a big part. It's not the only part though. All right. Well, let's talk about the biology.
What is an orgasm, Dr. Fuller?
Yeah. What is an orgasm?
What is an orgasm?
Orgasms are a really complex bodily function. There's kind of this stimulation of the genitals. There's increased blood flow to the genitals. There's like a buildup of energy that happens. There's messages that go up the spinal cord to the brain. There's neurotransmitters or neurochemicals that change in the brain. And then there's like this release of energy that there's like pelvic floor contractions and uterine contractions. There is a lot that goes on here. It is not just a simple bodily function. There's a lot of aspects of this that can go wrong. And when we try to figure out what's wrong, we have to look in a lot of different places. It's not just the clitoris or, there's a lot of places. And actually, I think people may be surprised at how much the brain is involved in orgasm.
For sure. It is a perfect symphony of things happening on the body and in the body. It culminates in this massive sense of euphoria with pelvic floor contraction and relaxation is kind of, it's a euphoric feeling, but it takes a lot of intricate parts to work together very well. Because if it doesn't work well together, then that's when we have difficulties, which we'll talk about in the next episode of how we kind of peel back the layers of these different parts that are needed in order to achieve orgasm. It is not an easy thing. And it is a very up and coming thing that we are still trying to figure out ways to help people, especially when they've never had an orgasm. It can be challenging for sure.
Absolutely. I also think like it's all those things in this kind of, like you said, orchestrated symphony of bodily functions, but it's also this kind of stepwise excitation and inhibition. So you have to have some kind of excitement or like a kind of increase in stimulation. And then you have to have a little bit of inhibition that kind of holds it back. Because if you had just excitation, it would just kind of go really fast and be over. But if you have the inhibition, it's kind of like it climbs. It kind of goes a little bit of stimulation, a little bit of inhibition, a little bit of stimulation, a little bit of inhibition, until finally we get to the top where we can overcome that inhibition and have an actual climax. And that is also really complex because if you don't have the right amount of one of either side, then you end up not having pleasure, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's kind of, when I approach patients and I'm like, okay, let's climb the mountain. We're climbing the mountain together now. Tell me what's happening in your body. Are you too much excitation? What does that look like? It might be it hurts and I can't do it. It's too sensitive, or it's too much inhibition, which is like, I don't feel anything. I'm not getting out of this. Like, why would I keep going? So you're kind of looking at that crossroads, but those things literally have to go in perfect symphony in order to get to that climax, because arousal and stimulation of genitals is sometimes painful yet pleasurable all at the same time. And you have to kind of go down that road, but also your brain's involved in telling you it's okay and this is safe and I can do this. And it's just it's really a fascinating, cool thing that could happen in the body that that just takes place in so many different systems of our body. It's a physiologic phenomenon that's really complex. Great.
It can be great when it works, but it also can be hard to figure out where that problem is in the whole circuit when things are not working. And that's, like I said, we're going to talk about next time a little bit more, is how we identify what that is and how we can modulate things.
In the gist, things that you have to have working properly that we will look at when you have orgasmic complaints. We think of sex, I always say it's from the bottom to the top, and then you think back to the bottom, which means it's going from my vulva to my brain and everything in between, how it moves up to the brain and back down to the vulva. That involves intact skin and nerve endings on the skin, intact blood flow to the skin and to the genitals. Hormones need to be in check, because there's things, as we talk about all the time, lack of hormones can cause pain and problems and decreased arousal because the blood flows less, things like that, anatomy changes. And then you move even a level deeper. And then you have pelvic floor muscles. If pelvic floor muscles are coming into an experience and arousal is supposed to happen where blood vessels dilate, you get tons of blood flow coming in, but those muscles are so contracted down that nothing's coming in them, it's not going to release and let go. So then you're moving even up a level into the spine. People can have spine injuries, which can affect their sensation and things with arousal. And then working up to the brain, where you have all these chemicals in your brain that have to be in perfect symphony: serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine, all these things. And they have to travel back up and down these nerve endings to get back down to the genitals to make this all happen. It's a huge process. And these are the things we have to really look at and talk about when it comes to orgasm.
That's the way I think about it too. I think about the top to the bottom. What I was going to say is I'm always amazed at how much the brain is involved. I mean, the brain is our biggest sex organ. Yes, we have genitals. The genitals are what we use to have sex, but our brain is a huge part of it. Not just the psychological state we are in, whether we want to have sex or when we're having sex, all that kind of stuff. But it's also about like the neurotransmitters in our brain, the neurochemicals, the dopamine, the serotonin. Those make a difference too. And that's how, for some people who are on certain medications, it may really inhibit their ability to get aroused and achieve orgasm. We'll talk, we're definitely going to talk about the SSRIs, or antidepressants. And that's part of it. It's because it changes your neurochemicals in your brain. It may help you feel less depressed or less anxious, but it also may make it harder for you to get that pleasure and to achieve orgasm or get aroused. So it definitely, all that plays a big role. If you are having orgasm issues, I do think it is worth talking to your gynecologist. I will admit they may not know a lot, because if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would not have known very much either. So there's no judgment. No one taught us this. But I think finding your way to a specialist, one of the resources that I often use for this, and I think you do too, Meredith, is a website called
OMG, yes.
Oh gosh. Yes, thank you. I was thinking, oh my God, it's January. I'm like, wait, it's OMGyes.com. And they basically interviewed thousands of women about how they achieve orgasm and how they achieve pleasure. And then there's kind of some how-tos of like what kind of techniques people use. I think it's great, especially if you feel like you don't know your body that well or you don't know where to start. I think it is a great place to kind of begin if you're not being able to achieve orgasm or are having difficulties. I think it's actually really helpful.
Now, you and I definitely have talked about the fact that the majority of vulvas will have an orgasm from stimulation of the clitoris, will be the initial thing to make that happen. But there are some people that can orgasm in other ways, but the clitoris is the MVP of the vulva.
It is the MVP.
So,
yeah, I mean, most women need clitoral stimulation to achieve orgasm. Like, there's only like 20 to 30% of women who can reliably have an orgasm from penetration alone. Now, we have talked about how the clitoris is more than just what you can see. It's a bigger organ. There is clitoral tissue underneath the vulva, around the opening, things like that. And so you can get some clitoral stimulation from penetration, but really most women need some kind of stimulation on the glands of the clitoris around that area to achieve orgasm. And so for some people, they just want clitoral stimulation. Some people, clitoral stimulation and penetration is better. But I think that it is uncommon, or not nearly as common as people think, to be able to achieve orgasm just from penetration. One of my big pet peeves about Hollywood and the way or women's pleasure is shown in movies is that once there is some kind of penetration, there is immediately an orgasm. It's what it looks like. If you watch a movie from Hollywood, you're like, oh, that's what's supposed to happen. And then it can really easily make you think something is wrong with you. I've had patients come to see me and be like, what's wrong with us? Like, this isn't what's happening for her. I'm like, nothing is wrong with you. That is not how it works. So it makes me really mad. I think it sets people up for an expectation that is really difficult to fulfill.
Yeah. Women, FYI, vulvas take about on average 13 minutes to have an orgasm in partnered sex. So it's definitely not what they're showing you on whatever TV show or movie you're watching.
Right.
That is fake.
It is fake. It doesn't set anyone's expectations up for winning, male or female, right? Because partners then also feel like, what's wrong with them? And I will say, if you are someone who's having a hard time achieving orgasm, once you get in your head about what's wrong with you, then it also is hard, right? Like, oh, why can't I get there? This is taking so long. I wonder if my partner is okay. How long are they going to want to keep doing this? What's wrong with me? I mean, you're just not going to be able, it's really hard to achieve orgasm if you're in that headspace. And I think if it's been a problem before, it's hard not to be in that headspace sometimes. And then that anxiety and that lack of being present to the actual physical feelings you're feeling make it even more difficult.
But people can orgasm without clitoral stimulation.
Yes. There are different positions that you can be in for penetrative penis and vagina sex that can give you more clitoral stimulation, even though you're having penetration at the same time. So I think there are those kinds of things that exist too. But some people really can just achieve orgasm from just penetration on its own.
People ask me, how do I know if I do that? And I say, generally, like, because I think also people can have cervix and uterine orgasm as well from just massive contractions of the uterus. And those people, I'm always like, do you like really deep penetration, like where your cervix gets hit really hard? Because a lot of people don't. But if you are somebody like that, and ultimately that leads to climax, like you probably are having those type of orgasms. But these are also people that, I know you've gotten this question a million times too, but you're going to have a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
And somebody says, is that going to affect my sex life? That's when I would ask that question, because if you are someone that has that and they remove the uterus and the cervix, there is the possibility you will come out of surgery and say, there's something different with my orgasm. So,
right.
So that is another way we will see that. And there are people that can have orgasms with the no genital touching.
Yes.
Can be done. Can be done.
Explain the picture to everybody.
The homunculus is the most scary picture I think I've ever seen. It's the brain, and there's a strip in the side of the brain that basically has all your erogenous zones. But the picture is a cartoon of body parts laid on top of the brain from like the middle all the way down, like towards your ear. And there's like tongue and toe and earlobe and all these things, breast, and you can see kind of how close these even are to genitals in the brain and where that gets interpreted, and it explains why you might like some of these things touched and can lead to pleasure, and ultimately some people can get aroused enough and have an orgasm from stimulation of these areas.
That's how we know that it's not just about genitals, it's really about your brain. So if your brain can create this buildup of excitation and inhibition and excitation and inhibition and this kind of buildup of energy and the neurochemicals in your brain, you can achieve orgasm from some people, maybe nipple stimulation or toe stimulation. I mean, I think people can, like you said, can achieve orgasm other ways. It doesn't have to just be the genitals, but usually it is the genitals.
Spinal cord injury patients who lose sensation of nerve endings in the genitals can actually learn to do this.
I think it's also important to talk about the psychological state of mind going into this. I think also it's really important for women especially to feel safe. There is a fair amount of letting go of control that happens when you achieve orgasm. And if you cannot feel safe enough to be in that space with your partner for whatever reason, then it may not happen. And so this is where communication and relationship things I think are important. And this is why when we talk about the orgasm gap, like hookup sex. So I think that's one of the many reasons that the orgasm rate is lower for women in hookup sex because of that. Their partner may not know their body as well or what they like, but also just like that feeling of safety and things like that. We haven't talked about sexual trauma a ton on this podcast, but definitely that plays a role too. If you have a history of sexual trauma, feeling safe and things like that, and definitely things that may need to be worked through or evaluated as you go forward to help be able to create that safe space, both within yourself and with your partner.
And even some of these inhibiting factors can be, and why it's so important, and why our sex therapists are so helpful in knowing your whole story, your whole life. How did you grow up? How was sex talked about in the home? Was masturbation a shameful thing? And was sex only for reproduction? And when you're in that moment, are those things kind of coming into your brain? Because that's going to be really inhibitory to you releasing and letting go. It can be even just life stressors and personality and all kinds of things. There's a lot of things that can put on the brakes in the accelerator and brake model that we all love so much, to think like we're pushing on the gas and everything's green light go, but yet you have inhibition of some brakes. And it's good to have both. You rarely do you meet someone who's full on the gas. Most people will have some kind of inhibition of like, could I possibly get pregnant? Could I get a sexually transmitted infection? Like you're kind of having those type of thoughts and feelings, possibly. But then through just life experiences and things, a lot of us end up putting more on the brakes than we are on the gas. It is definitely something that it can impede you from getting to orgasm.
Yeah, absolutely. The mental load, the busy brain, the thinking about the million things you got to do, the lists. If you're a middle-aged woman with kids and aging parents and a career, you know what I'm talking about. The lists are endless, and it's sometimes really hard to turn that list off. And if you're having sex with your partner and thinking about what you got to do tomorrow, it's going to be really hard to achieve orgasm.
Yeah. And then are you going to be night sweating all night? And then, God dang, sex hurts, and I get a UTI from this thing. Nobody wants to do that. So,
God damn it, why is it so hard? If men had to deal with this, there'd be a lot more options. I'm just going to say.
But if you're having those things, find help, because we can help you with that stuff for sure.
There's definitely things, but it's not talked about enough. And the things are not always like Viagra, like easy.
We're complex. They're not. They just, here's a pill that will make it erect and then you're good. It's so great. I'm happy for you. But
yeah, I'm happy for you.
We're not going to work like that.
No, we are just more complex. So do you want to talk about pelvic floor and how that's involved? I know we talked about it a little bit, but I do think that's important too.
We love the pelvic floor.
We do. That pelvic floor, it can be a problem, but it can also be an unsung hero a little bit.
Yeah, it can. I mean, ultimately, when you reach climax, it's contraction, relaxation of your pelvic floor muscles is that feeling that you're getting of that, euphoria, and then the release, and it's that contraction. So knowing the status of your pelvic floor is important. And we talk about this on almost every episode, because again, it's just a very intricate part of what we do, and understanding that in your pelvic floor, you have muscles, you have nerves, you have blood vessels. Everything has to work well, and hormones matter in here, and your brain matters in here. And, if something hurt you before, you better believe your body's not wanting you to do that again. So what is your brain telling your pelvic floor to do? Contract. It's protecting you. And so you're coming into a situation where it should be relaxed in order to be aroused and feel pleasure, but it's saying, no, this is the beauty of pelvic floor PTs and what they do to help us. And there's, the tight pelvic floors that are actually weak. And then there's the lax pelvic floors that are also weak. The lax ones are the people that need a Kegel. They're generally just coughing and sneezing and peeing. That's pretty much what they do. But then you have the tight ones that are also weak, who might have urinary issues as well, including leakage, but urgency to pee, constipation, diarrhea, sex problems, pain, my orgasm sucks, or it's not happening. These are the type of pelvic floors you're going to be generally running into with orgasm trouble. Some people might urinate when they orgasm, and that's distressing. And pelvic floor physical therapists are definitely involved in that. My pelvic floor PT and I always literally will kind of joke it's all connected.
Yeah.
It's looking at all of these things. Clitoris is the MVP of the vulva, but the pelvic floor might actually be the MVP of the orgasm, maybe.
Yeah. Well, like that.
Maybe. Just a thought, it is the ultimate end all. What's going to actually let go.
Yes.
And if it can't let go, yes, it won't let go.
When people tell me they have pain after orgasm, that's a red flag to me that it's pelvic floor issues. That pelvic floor didn't let go and it's still causing some kind of spasm that can lead to pelvic pain or pain, vaginal pain. It's usually more like that kind of pelvic pain afterwards, wouldn't you say?
That, and even just the lovely vascular congestion that we probably should have an episode on that.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
The other thing I was into keeping our differential. So all that to say, a lot goes on in the pelvis and the pelvic floor.
Yes. The take home here from this is that orgasms are complicated. We don't talk about it enough. We are here to talk about it. And I think today we wanted to kind of just lay the landscape for the complexities of the bodily functions to have to happen for this to work correctly and the different parts that are involved. What we're going to talk about next time, and we're going to have a guest on who is an expert in all of this, is where things can go wrong. So is it a muted orgasm? Is it an inability to achieve orgasm? Is it too much sensitivity where you have to stop because like the clitoral stimulation is too sensitive, or, that kind of thing? Is it that you have pain after orgasm? Is it that you have like a headache and feel sick after orgasm, like a post-orgasmic illness syndrome? So there's a lot of things we're going to talk about. And then we're going to talk about what might be going on and how we can like alleviate those issues with different medications and different options for that. So I think it's going to be fascinating because, again, this is hardly ever talked about.
Yeah. We're going to learn a lot in the next episode too.
Yes. Yes.
I'm excited.
And then just to give you a little teaser for next month, we are going to be talking about self-love, and that involves in this too. We're going to do an episode on vibrators with a vibrator expert has come and recorded with us. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, we've already done it, and it's actually extremely funny. It's great. It's going to be excited to hear it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right. And then we're going to try to do something about how to talk to your partner about what you want in the bedroom, because I think that is also really hard. So
yeah. It's going to be good.
Well, oh my God, it's January. Our first episode's over.
Oh my God,
I hope
it's over.
It was as good for you as it was for me.
Oh my God. It was great. It was great. I'm very satisfied. Great. Yes. Yes.
I hope you are satisfied. I hope you learned something. I hope that you come to our next episode to find out how ways to optimize things if things are not going right. And I hope you know that there are specialists like us out here. We really want you to enjoy your sex life and to have it be pleasurable and safe and something that you want to do. And we get that it's hard to find someone to help you. So you can always reach out to us. Both of us are happy to help point you in the direction of someone that may be able to help you who lives in your part of the country. I'm in Seattle, Meredith's in Dallas, but I definitely get emails from people all over the country on a regular basis of, I have this problem. How can I get help? And we know the network of people that do this work, and we're happy to help you.
Yeah. And share it with your friends. Don't be afraid to talk about it. No shame or stigma in this.
None. If you're liking our content, please leave us a like on whatever platform you're listening to us. If you have something that you feel like we haven't covered yet, and there's definitely a lot more to cover about the vulva that we have coming for you this year, please let us know. We're always happy to address certain things if you feel like you have questions. So let us know. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Labia Logic.
We get it. Sharing a podcast like this might feel a little taboo, but we're here to break down those barriers. Labia Logic's all about empowerment, not embarrassment.
If you found this episode helpful, we hope you share it with others who could use a little labia logic in their lives. Can't we all? You can find us on all major podcast platforms and connect with us on Instagram at labia_logic.
From our lips to yours,
Viva la vulva!